Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news as Manchester United are pushing hard to sign Frankie de Jong from Barcelona. Also, Declan Rice potentially the backup plan. What does this mean for Manchester United's transfer budget? And is a midfielder now the priority over a centre forward? Lots to get into on the show this morning. Hope you're all very excited. We were live last night, of course. I think many of you saw that. We were live last night talking about this transfer deal for Manchester United for Frankie de Jong. There was a little bit of trepidation, there was a little bit of confusion, but there was a lot of excitement, let's be honest. And I think more excitement can be added to this. I spoke to somebody this morning, they said United are pushing hard for this deal. They are cautious, but there is a relentless obsession to bring a big midfielder in to give a boost to that midfield because they know people like Pogba and Matic are going. So Manchester United very much pushing hard for this deal. As you can see, I put a tweet out this morning basically saying that the UK press and Romano confirming what was said about de Jong last night, not close but to being done yet, but United are pushing hard behind the scenes. And I think that that's really important, really important, because we're going to go through some tweets from other people in the journalistic area of Manchester United. And as you can see, Rob Dawson, who was on the show the other day, we'll go through that in a minute, and a few others. We've had Simon Stone, Luckhurst, Romano, all speaking about this. And I think we said this last night, and you know, some of us have become seasoned pros in reading transfer news, and I think it's very clear what we said last night. The next 12 hours will be key. We were live at 11 o'clock. Gerard Romero, who we've had an update from as well, has come out in the last few minutes saying that he said it was 95% chance and not the deal closed, which will clarify what he means on that in a moment. But it was really about this Barcelona source, Gerard Romero, good source, saying that basically this is a deal that United can do. And he was very confident it's a deal United can do. But we needed to know why he had the exclusive, why nobody else had any information. And it's taken till this morning for those responses to come in. But for me, the big thing is, even if I hadn't spoken to anybody, even if we hadn't had all the volume of updates we've had from so many journalists this morning, United haven't denied this. There wasn't an instant denial. Now, somebody said that, I think Jonathan Schrager put a tweet out or something like that saying that he's been told it's not close. Well, the next morning, there's loads of journalists saying that United are in for him. So maybe that was a bit of a holding. Well, I've not heard anything, I don't know. But it was always going to be the updates of the credible journalists who've been doing this for years that were going to matter. Simon Stone is very close to the club. He's saying United are cautious, but they very much like the deal. So that, to me, is the most important thing this morning. United haven't flatly denied this, and Barcelona haven't flatly denied this. And as De Jong and Lema equals Keenan Scholes, says Nicholas. Well, I want to talk about that in a minute because actually we've got a video going up on the Members Club straight after this. It's going up at 10:30, which is De Jong versus Matic. Deep dive into their stats, progressive runs, dribbles, tackling, aerial ability, possession won in the opposition half, in their own half, really deep dive stuff. So if you're a member, that's coming out exclusive for you at 10:30. If you want to be a member, click the join button, which is at the bottom or pinned to the top of the chat. But we will touch a little bit on de Jong in this show and what he would bring. But Frankie de Jong is a player Man United like, but there's an acceptance it would be a difficult deal to complete. United would enter the queue if Barcelona decide they have to sell, and he would need to be convinced to give up Champions League football for at least 1 year. So that's from Rob Dawson there. First on time, Bridge. Hey, I tell you what, we're going to be on time a lot from now on. It's the 10 o'clock show. The transfer window's about to hit. No more of this 10:05 bullshit. You're gonna, you can tell me off if I'm not live at 10 anymore because we've got a lot to get through. As you can see, it should come up on your screen there from Simon Stone, another good credible journalist around United. Man United do like Frankie de Jong, but so do a lot of other clubs. Caution is being expressed by Manchester United at the moment. We've also got Samuel Lucas, Manchester Evening News. Manchester United are weighing up a potential 75 million deal for de Jong. Erik ten Hag identified the midfielder as an ideal target, and United have contacted Barcelona about de Jong's availability. You can see that there. Let's have a look what Romano says. There's been contact between Man United and Barcelona for Frankie de Jong, but an agreement is not close as of today. Erik ten Hag will push hard. And then we've got two updates for you from Spain. Due to Barcelona's delicate financial situation, they would be willing to negotiate with Manchester United for midfielder Frankie de Jong. So we're getting it both ways here. We're getting both ways. What does it mean for James Garner, says Rangi? Don't really know. Welcome to Members Club, Javier and Kevin. We'll talk about Garner in a minute. Welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much for joining. And then Gerard Romero, who started this all off, he's come out this morning saying that I said it was 95% chance, not deal done. So what does he mean like that? I mean, I think in affection, there is affection here. Valenier, welcome to the Members Club. But I think what we have here is basically a raft of UK journalists and Romano saying that United are in for De Jong, but they're cautious about how difficult the deal is. And then you've got the Barcelona side saying this is a financial decision that Barcelona need to play. And there's I suppose the first thing to establish, and we tried to touch on this last night, and probably nobody could really explain it that well, but people are like, why do Barcelona want to sell Frankie de Jong? And it's got nothing to do with ability. He's not been a flop at Barcelona. He's not a player they really want to sell. And I suppose I was going to use a car analogy, like a Formula One racing car. You've got a car, you know, your Mercedes, you've got a good car, but you're not quite good enough to catch Red Bull and Ferrari this year. And you know the improvements you need to make, but you haven't got the budget to do it. So you're sort of looking at your car and going, well, what's the most valuable thing here? And you're like, well, let's sell Lewis Hamilton for 100 million and we can get another driver who's not as good, but is decent. But then with all the other money, we can make the car fast enough. Because we're not, it doesn't matter with Lewis Hamilton in the car. We're not fast enough to beat Red Bull and Ferrari. We need to buy some parts. We can't afford those parts, so let's sell Lewis Hamilton and get another driver in, but rebuild the car. And I mean, you could do it like that, but actually you could just do it as a football team. It doesn't even work. Stephen, welcome to Members Club. It does work with the car, but it works a lot better with the football team. So Barcelona want to catch Real Madrid. Barcelona want to win the Champions League. They can't do it with that team they've got. They've got very little room for manoeuvrable. They can't manoeuvre a lot because they don't have any money. So Barcelona have to make a difficult decision. They need to generate some funds. So what they're looking to do is, well, who's a player we can get a lot of money for? Frankie de Jong, 75 million quid. What can we do with that 75 million quid? Probably get 2 or 3 players in to make us better. And we can bring in Frank Kessie for free. Is Kessie better than de Jong? Maybe not. Is he good? Yes. Is there a massive difference between Kessie and de Jong? Probably is, but not a huge difference that we can have. Basically, it's not about who's better between Kessie and de Jong. It's the fact that if they sell de Jong and get Kessie in, they've also got £75 million with Kessie from the sale of de Jong to spend on the rest of the squad. Barcelona need to improve their team. And the only way they can do that at the moment is by generating funds. And to do that, you know, you don't sell Phil Jones. I mean, if United needed to raise 100 million quid tomorrow, they're not going to get it for Phil Jones, are they? They're going to have to sell, a Sancho or a Bruno or someone like that, and even then you might not get 100. So that's what Barcelona are doing, and I don't know whether people are getting their head around this because they're going, why would Barcelona sell de Jong? Why would de Jong leave Barcelona? Because it's a financial thing. Even Gerard Romero said it last night. We were talking about it last night. This is a financial thing. And that is why there are legs in this deal. Mark, what level of influence do you think Rangnick is having on the current decisions the club is making? I don't know, Eddie. I don't know how much influence Rangnick would have on this. I think Ten Hag, as I said last night, would be the one that would have the huge influence on this one, to be absolutely honest. But look, it is very exciting, and I think James English says would be a statement of intent by the club to get this deal done before the end of the season, says James. Well, I had a little quick chat with somebody this morning, and on time for 10 o'clock, which is great. So basically, or they wouldn't give me very much, and they've already tweeted anyway, but they said that Manchester United are pushing hard for this deal, and they really want to get a statement signing done. Not a marquee shirt selling, but a statement signing. When Mourinho came in and we were in the Europa League, we got Pogba. They want to do the same for Ten Hag. They want to deliver a big statement signing. And De Jong and Ten Hag have a really good relationship. And it's a player that, again, remember we spoke about this about Donny van der Beek. Van der Beek, look, I sympathise with Barca fans if they don't want De Jong to go. But it very much is about generating money so you can improve your team, which you can't do if you keep De Jong or you don't sell somebody big. But we spoke about this with Ten Hag. He's inheriting a nightmare shit show of a team with a weak mentality. He's walking into that in a couple of weeks' time and he doesn't know what he's going to get. Rangnick's going to say they're a bloody nightmare, right? So what does Ten Hag want? He wants as many players that that he knows he can build a team around that are going to be with him from day one. Well, Van der Beek's going to come back, but Van der Beek may not be part of his first team plans, but he is a player that's with him. Bring De Jong as well. He knows he's with him and he knows he's good enough to walk into that midfield. Suddenly Ten Hag has got security in the players that he's bringing in. Maybe he brings an Ajax player with him as well. Maybe he brings Timber or Anthony. Suddenly he's got 3 players there that are going to be with him from the start, and potentially all first team players as well. So it's clever. It's clever from the club. It's clever from Ten Hag. And it's just about the competition. Hub G says, United have worse team than Barca in my opinion. Why are we buying a Hamilton before our car can run? Says Hub G. Because we need a midfielder. And if a Champions League team is also interested in this deal, then De Jong will be begging for Barcelona not to sell him to Manchester United, says Mihir. Well, this is the interesting thing. There is definitely a race going on here, and there is definitely caution from Manchester United. I'll just whiz through these tweets for the people who've come in a little bit late, so you can get a little bit of a glimpse as to the sort of stuff that's being said whilst we're live. But look, there is a race for De Jong. Barcelona, I think, will let him go because they need to raise funds, and it's about where they let him go to. But remember, the race is not a clear race. Barcelona will not want to let De Jong go. Look, if we offer 70 million and Real Madrid offer 75 and Bayern Munich offer 75 and Chelsea offer 75, they'll push him towards us because Chelsea are in the Champions League. Real Madrid are in the Champions League. Bayern Munich are in the Champions League. We're not in the Champions League. It's ideal for Barcelona to get 70 million from us, knowing that he's not in the Champions League next year. So by the time De Jong becomes a problem for Barcelona, it's 2 years' time. So by then, their project will have moved on. I don't think Barcelona will want to see Frankie de Jong joining another Champions League team that maybe in the autumn or certainly in the springtime of next year is knocking them out of the Champions League. They won't want to see that. So look, that goes in our favour. I said this last night. Not many people are clicking onto this. The race for De Jong is interesting, but I do think that, as Scarboy says, we are not a rival to Barcelona, and I think they will push the deal to Manchester United for the money. And we will. It's down to us to persuade. I'm not worried about this race. The things that worry me on this deal are, will Barcelona sell? And I think, yes, they will for the money. Can United afford it? Yes, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And 3, can we persuade De Jong to come? And I think, yes, we can. De Ligt and Eriksen also, it could be done, says Sean from Ireland. I mean, De Ligt, I don't know anything about. I'm going to start looking about that one today. But I'm very intrigued by this De Jong deal. And I do think United can pull it off. And one I just want to say as well is, it will only be City that could put up a fight for De Jong, in my opinion, says Steve. Like, I think Man City would be interested, Steve. And I've not mentioned Manchester City on purpose. And I do think that they will definitely be interested, Manchester City. Why would they not be interested? Having said that, also, let's not forget that they would also be a rival. Pep is a former manager of Barcelona. Do Barcelona want to play Man City in the Champions League next season with Frankie de Jong playing against them? They don't want that. So, look, there's loads of barriers, but in a simple sentence, Manchester United are in for Frankie de Jong. Barcelona want to sell him to generate funds because they need money. And De Jong needs to be persuaded to join United. This can happen. And I'd still say, listen to what the Barcelona source said. 95% chance of it happening. But I think patience is going to be key. I don't think... this is my opinion on this now. I don't think we're going to see Frankie de Jong to Manchester United done before the middle of June. I think this might be something that happens in 4 or 5 weeks. So I think we'll get the initial buzz of the story, and I think then it will die down for a bit. So because it's a big decision for him, and there's got to be some negotiations going on. But it's a very, very clever deal, because Ten Hag's got the relationship with De Jong. Manchester United is a massive project. De Jong might fancy that. Barcelona need the money. We've got the money, but we're not a threat. So they can let him go to us. They can take their money. They can do their rebuild. We get De Jong. They say, we didn't really want to sell you, but you're helping us rebuild the club. And De Jong goes to Manchester United, and Barcelona know that he's not a threat because he's not going to be playing against them next season in the Champions League. everybody's happy if we can make De Jong happy. I think if we were in the Champions League, we might be in a bit of trouble because they'd go, well, why sell to United when we can sell to City or Bayern, who are also in the Champions League? It'll only be that I've done that from Steve. Why would any player commit to coming when there's still a chance we will be on the Conference League? Says Aram. Yes, this is why I don't think the deal will be done before the end of the season, Aram. You've made a great point. This ain't going to get done in the next 2 days because we aren't playing till a week on Sunday. So you make a very good point. Welcome to Members Club, Ken. Appreciate that very much. And look, don't buy it. City, Champions League, and we'll pay more. No chances, Robin. But Robin, I've got to come back at you for that. Robin, you've sort of you've stoked the fire there, because I cannot accept that this is not a straight race. If Man City offer what we want, Barcelona will probably say, we're not selling you to Man City. And De Jong will go, I want to go to Man City. And we'll go, well, we're not selling you to Man City. It's Man United or not. And maybe Barcelona will be so desperate they do sell him to Man City. But ideally, Barcelona will push him to United, because Man City are a direct rival to them in the Champions League with Pep in charge. De Jong for 75 million, Lamer for 30 million, Timber for 40 million. That's a great summer for us, Mark. There's no striker though, Bradley. I want to talk about that in a couple of minutes. But just on De Jong, I just want to say this, that we have got a membership video going up on the channel in the next 15 minutes. As soon as this ends, it'll be going up. So if you want to become a member, click the join button, and you can watch a deep dive into Frankie De Jong, comparing him to Matic and Rodri in all areas. So I'm not going to do that now because we're doing a transfer show. But if you're interested in that sort of thing, we put these sort of videos up each week. Normally they're voted for by you, but I've ignored your vote this week because of this De Jong story. So De Jong, Matic, Rodri, comparing all the stats for this season. Real deep dive. It's going up in 10 minutes. If you are a member, make sure you watch it. If you're not a member, click the join button and support the channel. You get a badge next to your name and you get exclusive video content extra to all the free stuff we do, which will stay the same, all the reactions, all the match reactions and everything. And you should, just as a little gift for me this morning, just feeling a little bit generous, you should see that we've just gifted 10 members as well to people at random. So 10 of you will now be a member to be able to watch that video at 10:30. So there you go. Okay, so let's carry on. I just want to say about De Jong as well. I go into a lot of this in the members video, but I want to give you a little bit here. I've been on about this for a while. Andreas, welcome to the Members Club. I've been on about this for a while now. Frankie De Jong is not a holding midfielder on his own. I think some of our fan base is obsessed with us getting one holding midfielder. Erik ten Hag doesn't play with one holding midfielder. He always plays with two. Even when he had De Jong at the club, he plays with two. Donny was the attacking midfielder. De Jong played, I can't remember who it was, but he was one of the two. At Barcelona, he plays as one of the two. Ajax this season, they play Gravenberch and Alvarez as a two. I've been on about this for a while. Manchester United are probably going to play with a two, not a holding one. There was a quote from Ten Hag, I think it was Ten Hag, or somebody was talking about De Jong, saying if you play him as a holding player, welcome Daniel, if you play him as a holding player, you don't get the best out of Frankie De Jong. And if you know anything about Frankie De Jong, or you watch that members video, or you do your own research, the reality is this, that Frankie De Jong is not a holding midfield player. That is not what he is. He is a player that is brilliant at getting on the ball, progressing the ball. Now, whether that's passing, whether that's carrying the ball himself, like dribbling, or moving with the ball, whether it's passing into the penalty box, but he is not somebody that sits in his own half in front of the back four. He is somebody that is progressive. He is somebody that can pass. He is somebody that is brilliant in a two to force the press. He's got to play in a midfield two, and if we do get him, we will be playing a midfield two. So the question is, who plays next to De Jong? Because we'll play an attacking midfielder. Maybe it'll be Van der Beek, maybe it'll be Bruno. But somebody needs to play next to De Jong and be able to do it in the same way, that they press together, they win the ball back together. If one goes, one sits, and that's how we're going to work. We're not going to sit with one holding midfielder like Rodri or someone like that. We are going to play with a two if we do get De Jong. And that's always what I thought the plan was going to be. So even if we did get a Declan Rice, I think he would have played in a two. If we get a Calvin Phillips, I think he'd play in a two. If we get a Neves, we're going to play in a two. Just because Solskjaer's played with a holding midfielder for the last 3 years, everyone's convinced that we're going to stick with one holding midfielder in a 4-3-3. It's not how Ten Hag plays. We're going to play with a two. And this is going to be a high defensive line with 2 people pushing up into the opposition half. And that's where Frankie de Jong, if you check out the video I've done, really excels. Winning the ball back in the opposition's area. His successful attacking actions are way higher. His successful offensive duels are way higher than his defensive duels in his own half. We kind of have 2 bargaining chips then. One with Barca because we aren't a threat, and one with de Jong and having Ten Hag, says Dominic. Yeah, we definitely do. Thanks everyone who's joining the members club as well. Sam, David, Stefan and Ronit. Mark, Frankie de Jong with Kamara as free or Ericsson is a better deal than Frankie de Jong with Lema, says Ronit. Look, to be honest with you, thank you Boredom for joining, and Callum and Nick. To be honest with you, the idea of de Jong and Lema, I mean, I've got a FIFA career mode going. I've literally just started season 2. I've bought Lema. I wish I'd bought bloody de Jong now. I'm going to buy him in January. But, you know, we probably won't get him in real life. But Lema and de Jong would be great. It might be Lema and Fred in season 1. It might be Lema and McTominay in season 1. But it will be a different Manchester United midfield. We won't have one holding midfielder. Sorry, this isn't football, but would you ever do MotoGP watch-along, says Woom? Probably not. If we manage to get de Jong and another, do you think that definitely means one of McTominay or Fred will be sold? Donny in too, says Aram. I think one of Fred or McTominay will go in the next couple of years, but remember, Fred's probably about to sign a new contract, and I think Fred's a player that Rangnick likes that may well work in a Ten Hag system. I don't see Fred or McTominay going anytime soon, to be honest with you. But I do like the idea of de Jong. Anyway, look, let's move on from de Jong because we'll see what happens. But as I said, we've covered quite a lot of it there. Manchester United are pushing hard, and United are definitely in for him. Barcelona are definitely considering selling him, and we aren't a threat. So they would sell him to us over a Real Madrid, a Man City or a Bayern because we're not in the Champions League next year. But very good point. I think I am said it. This is not a deal that's going to happen tomorrow. This is not a deal that gets signed off next week. This is a deal that will not happen until at least a week on Monday, because the Crystal Palace game, where we are, if we're in the Conference League, it's going to be harder to persuade him than the Europa League. Because if we're in the Conference League, we might not be in the Champions League the year after. At least if we're in the Europa League, it's another way into the Champions League by winning it. Ten Hag bringing back the manager pull, it's good, says Steve Locke. And if this deal is to help Barcelona financially, expect them to milk us dry. Deal will definitely rise to 80 to 85 million. Says Thomas Shelby. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, that was the next thing I wanted to talk about, really. 2 things, actually. The person I spoke to this morning said, if United don't get de Jong, keep an eye on Declan Rice. And for the first time, I was like, shit, what do you mean? And they said, if United have got £70 million, £75 million to spend on de Jong, and West Ham cannot get Declan Rice to sign a new contract. There was a story yesterday that they'd offered him an 8-year deal on 200 grand a week. Declan Rice ain't going to sign a new deal at West Ham. He wants to move. He's been very respectful to West Ham. He's had a very good career at West Ham. But Declan Rice is a Champions League player. That's where he needs to be. That's where he deserves to be. West Ham cannot say, we're not selling you because we want to keep you. That's never happened. He's been very loyal to that club. He's been a very good player for that club. They can't offer him Champions League football. They probably won't even have European football next season. Well, they might do. They might have Conference League football or Europa League football again. But he deserves to play in the Champions League, and he will not sign a contract at West Ham. So West Ham have got a decision to make, because they can force him to stay and they can refuse all the options. But the reality is, United, by showing they're willing to pay big money for a midfielder, it might just make West Ham think, there's a club that will pay us a good fee. So if we don't get de Jong, keep an eye on Declan Rice, because he won't sign a new deal at West Ham, and United have shown a willingness to spend a lot of money on a midfielder, so keep an eye on that. De Jong is an underperforming, expensive Galactico, has terrible defensive numbers. Whatever happened to buy cheaper, hungry players, says Merud. I mean, you're sort of talking out your arse, Merud. I mean, I don't know whether you're a member of the channel, but you might want to check the video that's going to go out at 10:30, because you're not looking at De Jong in the right way. If you're looking at his defensive stats in his own half, they're not particularly great. But if you look at his defensive stats or offensive, winning the ball back and everything in the opposition half, they're amazing. And there's a reason for that. The reason De Jong's stats in his own half aren't standoutish, but that they are amazing in the opposition's half, is because when he was at Ajax, they spend a lot of time in the opposition's half. And when he's at Barcelona, the press spends a lot of time in the opposition's half. So De Jong wins a lot of tackles and does a lot of his work in the opposition half. He doesn't do a lot of work in his own half because he doesn't spend a lot of time there, because the teams he plays a high line and his midfield two push into the opposition half. So it's very easy to look at his stats and go, well, they're not that good defensively compared to a Rodri, but Rodri spends a lot more time on the centre circle, taking the ball off the back four. That's not what he does. Welcome to the Members Club, Callum. We've done that one. Nick, David, Chris and Rahul, thank you very much. And Karim. Nana says, Google said De Jong plays for Manchester United. Not yet. Not yet. So we'll see what happens with that. But he's not an underperforming expensive Galactico. I think he's a fantastic player, and I think he's exactly what United need. And I think he's also got the ability at 25 to come to the Premier League and blossom into what Michael Carrick became in his late 20s, a player that can just take the ball off the back four and dictate the play. Sip, welcome to the Members Club. So, what does this mean? There's two things I wanted to talk about very quickly. Please smash a like on the video if you're watching. What does this mean for the budget? And what does it mean for the striker priority that we heard last week? We need more bargain signings to Sir Nigel Farage. Well, look, I completely and utterly understand what people are saying there. I can't disagree with that. If you think that this is too much money, I did want to actually talk about that and say that the cold, harsh fact is that the budget will not be a massive budget. And by spending, his wages will be 350 grand a week. We'll spend about 75 million pounds on him. That's something that really does have to be given consideration to, because he may take up a lot of the budget, and I myself have said it, quantity is really important this summer. 2 signings is not enough. It's not going to get us where we are. But if you spend 75 million pounds on De Jong and your budget is 150, that leaves you with another 75 million quid. You could get Eriksen for free. You could get Kamara for free. You could get Timber for 35, and then that leaves you with 40. That's not quite enough for a striker, but maybe you sell a player like Martial, you push that up to 70 and you get Nunez. There is a world where you get Eriksen, Nunez, De Jong and Timber for 175 million quid. It is a possibility. So, we'll have to wait and see. George, welcome to Members Club. And Ajax don't play with a 2. Alvarez a DM. Gravenbach is box to box. Berghaus is an air. Here we go. Michael Peralta, he's a fucking tactical expert. Mate, you go and swim in your own pool. You go and swim in your own sea. Because everyone's a tactical genius, aren't they? The reality is, Ajax played with a 2 when they had De Jong. Barcelona played with a 2 with De Jong. Manchester United are going to play with a 2. We aren't going to play with one holding midfielder who takes the ball off the back four and sits in front of the back four whilst another player plays as a box-to-box and another one plays as an attacking midfielder. You'll see what happens with Manchester United next season. We will play with a midfield too. And if De Jong comes to this club, we will play with De Jong, maybe a Fred, and they will press together. One will sit, one will go forward, and they will swap. And that's what will happen. But you go swimming in your own pool. Sell Bruno, get Eriksen. We'll be, we're not going to sell that. We're not going to sell that at all. Somebody just said check Twitter. I'm looking at Twitter, but there's so much stuff out there at the moment that I'm not seeing anything from anybody credible. I'm seeing Graham Bailey. Don't think he's credible. I don't think he's bad, but he's not as A-star as the people we've just been talking about. So unless I can see an update from anybody massive. Frankie de Jong has a desire to work with Eric Ten Hag from Scott Saunders and Graham Bailey, but they're just 90 minutes. They're not. Graham Bailey does it from his bedroom. I mean, he's okay, but he's not Samuel Luckhurst, he's not Simon Stone, he's not Fabrizio Romano, he's not Rob Dawson, and he ain't Gerard Romero. So it's just, if you want, like I say, swim in your own pool. If you think certain journalists are better than those ones I've mentioned, that's absolutely fine. But that doesn't add anything to the conversation for me. That's not a let me drive this vehicle. I've been doing it for 7 years with you, the community. I'm not just going to start reading any old tier 3 source out there. We have a path to what we think is credible, and I think where we are at the moment is that we have a very credible, very credible story around what's going on. And Manchester United are definitely interested in De Jong, and Barcelona are definitely interested in selling De Jong to us. I think we'll have to just wait and see. But as I said, we'll have to wait and see what happens over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. This surely cannot be announced in the next few days, because we might be in the bloody Conference League if we lose to Palace. Get Tammy Abraham instead of Nunez, says Sir Nigel Farage. And hi Mark, I don't understand why we can't go with cheaper alternatives like Tchouaméni, Kamara. Oh dear, Scooter, you're such an idiot. I mean, just basically just tried to get me to say a racist word. I mean, there really is some sad people out there. So he basically said 2 genuine names and then tried to combine 2 words to make me say a racist term. That's how sad some people are. Probably sat there in a darkened room, lonely. You need to get a mirror, mate. Get a mirror, look in it, and see what a complete and utter sad individual you are, and actually start working on yourself. Because people who are doing stuff like that, people who are being haters on social media and being abusive, they're just reflecting the frustration within themselves. You need to get some help, mate. Really, you do need to get some help. There's phone calls you can ring up, get some help for yourself, because that's not normal behaviour. Mode, welcome to Members Club. Mark, you don't even read the rest of my message before mouthing me off. It might be possible that you're wrong. Parser don't play with a 2 either. Yes, they do, Michael. Mark, all my friends say De Jong has failed and want him sold. It's worrying since they watch every game. Is United about to get done again, says Ash. Mate, look, Ash, we're reading the news. Everyone's got an opinion. I can't tell you that Darwin Nunez is going to be a success. I can't tell you that Frankie de Jong would be a success, that Tchouaméni would be a success, that Declan Rice would be a success. There are no guarantees in transfers. You go into them, and quite rightly, you've got to look at the pros and the cons. Some of you don't like the look of this deal. Some of you really do. Where do I sit? I think Frankie de Jong's a really good player. I think his relationship with Ten Hag and the style of football he plays, they fit perfectly for how United want to grow. So I would back this deal if it happens. On the other hand, I will completely admit, and I'm going to do both, because I'm tired of sitting there after signing Harry Maguire for 80 million or Wan-Bissaka for 50 million or Dan James for 15 million, and Schweinsteiger comes in at the end of his career and you go, oh, what a signing, and then it crashes and burns. So I want to be pragmatic about signings. Of course, I would sign Frankie de Jong, I would, but I'm not going to ignore the fact that £75 million on one player, 350 grand wages, that is a lot of money for a team that needs a massive rebuild. We need a whole new team. 1 or 2 players is not a good summer. We need 5 this summer. 5 players have got to come in, because that team is the worst Premier League side we've ever seen from Manchester United. So many of those players need getting rid of. You can't just buy Frankie de Jong and a striker and think everything's going to be okay. So, look, I understand where people are coming from. I've heard a rumour that they will allow 5 subs in the Premier League. Do you like that idea? It's not a rumour, Fisher. It's going to happen next season. There's a chance Greenwood will come back next season. Well, we're not talking about Mason Greenwood, Sir Nigel Farage. Again, what are you talking about? Why is it that people feel the need to mention that name constantly? He's under police investigation for a very serious offence. It's not worth talking about. That it will offend people, and you know it will. So just shut up about it. Don't talk about it. You're talking about football when that's real life, serious issues. Let that process run. And when it's run, we can then maybe talk about football if it's an option. It may not ever be an option again. But look, I do feel for Barcelona fans, because there's a lot of them that don't want to see De Jong go. But, as Gerard Romero said last night, this is a financial decision. And you can understand why they're doing it. De Jong is a big signing and could help United get more sponsors. It may be board will be willing to increase transfer budget, says Andrew O'Brien. One thing I did want to just quickly talk about was the priority, the striker priority. Apparently, the striker is the priority. But ultimately, the striker being the priority is... The striker may well be the priority for United this summer. But the priority isn't always the first signing. We've seen this time and time again. Harry Maguire was our last signing, wasn't he? I think we got Dan James and Wan-Bissaka, and then we got Harry Maguire. The priority was the centre-back that season, but it was the third signing. So this is not about signing people by priority. A summer transfer window is about what deals you can get done and how quickly you can get them done. So I would still say that a striker is United's priority, but it doesn't mean it's going to be the first signing. And maybe, you know, Frankie de Jong is clearly a signing that United have had a sniff of, and there's an opportunity there, and you need to move quickly because other clubs will jump in. So maybe that's why we're looking at that. Surely would get the deal done regardless of Man City being in the Champions League, says T. Well, they're talking about de Jong and Man City. Look, I think de Jong fits Pep and Man City like a glove. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up there. And of course, they've got the bigger pulling power because they are a Champions League side. But it's whether Barcelona want that to happen and can they resist that happening. We'll have to wait and see. Look, the race is on and Man United are pushing hard. That's all we can say. I can't give you a guarantee we're going to sign him. I know we need a CDM, a centre-back and a striker, but we also need a winger to pair with Sancho. Alango is young, and then we've got Rashi, says Akil. Nothing, Mark. Morning, Mark. Hope you're well. I agree with you. You need a whole new team, says Mikael Roach. I'm from America, so I come to you for all my football news. Love your content and United, says Fisher Freak. Well, look, thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. The video is now up on the members section, so if you want to become a member, click the join button. 10 of you have just been gifted a membership randomly, so you should be able to watch that now. It's on the homepage under the members section. A deep dive into de Jong versus Matic versus Rodri, all their strengths and everything over a 10-minute video. Alvito, welcome for becoming a member. I'm just going to quickly check if there's any sort of updates coming in the end. Yeah, I can't see anything that's coming from any decent sources. We've covered all the decent ones. I think the reality is Manchester United are in for de Jong. They do want him. Barcelona are considering selling him, definitely. De Jong probably wants to stay at Barcelona. He probably doesn't like this situation, you know, effectively he's being forced out because they need money, and it's about where he wants to go. United will be there. Will he want that move? We'll have to wait and see. But I don't think we're going to find out for a couple of weeks, because I think in the factor of that, you've got to see where everybody finishes. Who wins this? Who's in the Champions League? Who's in the Conference League? Etc, etc. So anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Welcome to the Members Club, Lawrence. And good morning, Mark. Do you think he resolves United's midfield problem? He is more of a Rodri than... He's not a Rodri, Jay. He's not a Rodri. He's not a Rodri at all. He's not a holding midfielder. Frankie de Jong is not a holding midfielder. He's not a holding midfielder. He plays in a midfield too, and he does all his good work in the press in the opposition half and progressing the ball. That's what he does. So he's a very good midfielder in a team that plays a high line with a midfield two that presses. He does all his good work in the opposition half. So that's how we would play. Hi Chelsea, heard you're looking for a centre-back. We are currently having a sale on a tall, strong, very fast defender for a cheap, only 80 million, says Akil. Yeah, if you are a member, check out the video. It's just gone up. Deep dive into de Jong, comparing him to Matic and Rodri. Some very interesting insight into how he plays there. We'll be back at 2, unless something happens before that. Make sure you smash a like on the video, and we'll see what happens.